Hey everybody, Mark Burgess here, Big East Bass Fishing, fresh off the B.A.S.S Nation National Championship out at Grand Lake of the Cherokees, out of Grand, Oklahoma. All right, so this is going to be like a complete recap of the entire event. Okay, so I know I've been posting little videos here or there. I got a bunch of content on the GoPros that I'm going to put together and put into a complete video, and I'm going to break them up a little bit. So we'll see. It's just a lot that I have to go through and edit and stuff, and time allowing, I'll get it out there. I appreciate your patience with that. So to totally recap the event, obviously coming off of Champlain on a tremendous high with that, winning that event, that regional qualifier. And preparation for the Nationals began right then and there. Okay, so even though I had the time blocked off in my calendar for the Nationals because I fully expected to qualify for the event. I mean, I was very confident going into Champlain. So, so preparation began in July, right after the qualifier. Okay, so with everything that you do, you know, your lodging, your research, you know, I bought a paper map. I know, oh my God, it's so old school. Yeah, well, it's great to be able to sit down and look at that and, you know, not scroll through a chart. And it's great. I mean, I have the latest and greatest from Humminbird and it works fantastic, but I still like looking at a paper map when I'm like sitting back at the room or the house or whatever. But outline, you know, confidence areas and find similarities and stuff like that. Seeing the big picture helps. Okay, so enough on the map. But anyway, so map, license, you know, resources, information, everything online, all the history, you know, the whole bit. Prior to the cutoff, just getting a feel for the lake, you know, from I have friends out in that area, just to, you know, get their perspective on it. Do everything that I know how to do to prepare for an event. Okay, so most of you know I flew out there and spent 2 full days on the water, just basically looking, a little bit of fishing, but basically looking to just identify, you know, if I could just identify and get a confidence area that I wanted to spend the 3 days of official practice on, so I wouldn't have to waste that time. So I did that. So Lisa and I drove out on the Thursday prior to the first day of practice, which was on Saturday. You know, it's 1,535 miles, something like that. We did it in 2 legs, stopped one night at a room, got a room, and got up. We did about a 15-hour day the first day on the Thursday, and about 9 hours, I think, the second day. So yeah, I was all ready to go, baits tied on, rods and reels prepped, everything 100% ready to go for early Saturday morning. And you know, so I ended up fishing with Sammy Sanko together on Saturday and Sunday, and you know, we started right off up an area that I had determined was going to be my confidence area, which I'm going to deviate just a little bit here, right? So this is kind of important, you know, and I want to make sure I articulate it properly to you. There turned out to be 243 boats. Okay, 2 people to a boat. Coes could catch 5 as well. Okay, so there was going to be a tremendous amount of pressure on this body of water, and I knew the mid-lake area. We were launching out of Wolf Creek, and from there down to almost to the dam is considered the mid-lake area, and that was going to get a tremendous amount of pressure. I mean, how could it not? Okay, with 243 boats, plus local people fishing, plus other little tournaments going on. You know, all beaten up on the same stuff, all looking at the same stuff. Everybody just going into a pocket, going, I'm only going to hook 1 or 2 fish. You know, and you know, and dozens of people going in there to do that. It definitely will have a big impact. So typical me, I mean, I'm looking for something that I can have to myself, or mostly to myself, something that someone's overlooked, typically, you know, I'm known for making a long run, going up river, that kind of stuff, doing some sketchy stuff with my boat, getting into places where, you know, I'm going to do a little bit of damage to the boat, possibly, and or motor equipment, whatever. I obviously try not to, but, you know, it's part of the game, right? So I did that. I ran up river, and I fished. I had identified a bluff wall, a sheer bluff wall. You might have seen the video with the deer. That'll give you an idea of what I was fishing. And for the most part, the bluff wall came down, you know, 150 feet or so from the top and went 30, 38 feet, 40 feet into the water, because that's the old river channel from the Elk River, where I was fishing. That's where the river channel is up against that bank. Well, where the river channel starts to peel off, they're called bluff ends, okay? So prior to the bluff end, like a half a mile, it came down and shelved off, okay? And I mean, it came down and about 5 to 8 feet under the water is a shelf, about as wide as the boat, maybe a boat width and a half, then it falls off into the abyss, okay? So, and of course, you know, that being the river channel, any current, and if there's wind blowing on it, okay, the bait are going to be pushed up against that bank. Those fish are going to be on that shelf or right on the edge of the shelf, and that's where you can catch them, okay? So that was okay. Sammy and I did okay. We got a few, probably half a dozen bites, you know, in like the 2 and 2.5 pound fish class, nothing 3 or better. And I was catching him on a square bill, okay, and he was throwing a spinnerbait, and he had a couple on spinnerbait. So it wasn't really what I had wanted or expected. So we did a whole bunch. I stayed up in the Elk River all that first day, and prior to the end of the day, I made another pass by it. Just fished it a little differently, okay, and it wasn't any better. Matter of fact, it was worse. Okay, so second day, him and I, we ran down lake towards the dam to the B.A.S.S area, okay? If you're familiar with that on a map. If you look at it on a map, it's like a lake off the river channel lake, okay? And it looked good on a map, but most of it was not, okay? It was just a giant flat. If there were brush piles out there or whatever, I'm sure there was a couple row beds and stuff. I don't get distracted by that stuff. I was basically looking at super shallow docks. Okay, so there was a stretch in there, they were dirt shallow. Didn't get bit on them. By that time the weather was turning ugly. Saturday was okay weather-wise. Sunday it was raining pretty hard on us, off and on. And ended up fishing up in there, and there's, you know, there's some good stuff to fish up in there, and it was though it screamed out at you on a map, okay? So if it does that to me, I knew it was doing that for everybody else. And sure enough, there was a ton of pressure there, okay? So you could try to find something within that was a little different than someone else wasn't doing, and I tried to find that, so we spent quite a bit of time in that area. Then there was some other pockets, though, running back towards Wolf Creek, say north or upriver from that area, B.A.S.S area, that were loaded. I mean, absolutely loaded with fish. And it was fairly easy. We caught, both days, we caught a lot of fish. We both had multiple limits of 14 plus inch fish. But nothing over 3 pounds, maybe 2 3/4 at best. Okay, and there was a lot of pressure. Watercolor was great, ton of bait in there. It looked fantastic, and there was some different stuff to fish, you know, some steeper banks and stuff like that. And the first 2 days of practice, it was the backs of creeks, like you'd run back, and there were little pockets off the back of the creek, secondary, third dairy, fourth dairy, if you will, if that's a phrase, points, and it led back into the shallow flat areas. The flatter the better. Could get bit at, just call your target, just call it, okay? And that's great. But again, it was under cloudy, windy, rainy conditions. Third day of practice, the Monday, Sammy didn't fish with me. He was soaked, as was I. I had 3 sets of rain gear with me. And it was severe weather forecast until about noontime. So 1 o'clock was my plan to get off the water. So what I did was I just wanted to double check a few things. I ran back to the bluff wall, and I'm going to fish it differently again. Third time going back through this. I started at the opposite end, and I was pitching a jig. Okay, 3/8 ounce jig, half ounce with a little bit bigger trailer, a little more action on it. And I had half a dozen bites of good fish. I mean, good fish, just some weight. Okay, and hook was cut off. I wasn't hooking them. One situation where I pulled the jig up and over a limb. Here comes a 3-pounder, 3+ pounder that I saw. I didn't catch it up. Tries to eat the jig off when I was pulling it up over a limb. I made one cast or a few casts, with a square bill in between some targets. Caught a 3-pounder. I'm like, all right, win, lose, or draw. I want to fish with, and I only saw one other boat looking at it in the 2 days that I was up there. And I identified some other bluff areas in the river channel, bluffy and bluff ends that transitioned back into a pocket that had a steep side and a flat side, so it gave the fish some options. And if the wind was blowing in on it, I felt better about it because it would push those threadfin shad up in there. So that was my deal. Went to had a day off, to prepare, and that was ended up obviously going through all my tackle, preparing everything with the boat, my tackle, my mind, everything 100% good to go. Went to the registration meeting, and what B.A.S.S did was they took Will Davis, who was the defending national champion, back to back. He did it. They put him in boat 1, and then they did the 4 regional qualifier champions, boater and non-boater, paired them together, 1 through 4 behind Will. So that put me boat 5, and I was fishing with Rob Ross. Okay, so he was the non-boater champion up on Champlain. So we were boat 5, which I know why B.A.S.S did that. I appreciate that. The early start, early boat draw, get to your juice first, that kind of thing, which is great. I appreciate that opportunity, but that's a really short day. 2:15 was weigh-in for us, so you got to get busy quick. So I ran right to the wall, right to the bluff wall, pulled up just a tick early, where the shelf, it goes from straight down and then it shelves out. So pull up a little bit early. My first 5 casts, I had 2 that were almost 3, 2 3/4, just under 3. Back to the third, I think, second or third cast and the 5th cast. Okay, I'm like, actually got a little butterfly in my stomach. I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. Okay, so then it went a little bit, no bites, and then I got to the first batch of wood, flip in there with a jig, boop, bite, boom, set the hook, hang the fish, boom, go in, crash that whole deal, get them. A good section of that is extremely difficult to fish. I mean, extremely difficult. Boat handling, casting. There is wood and gnarly brush and metal and cables and trusses, and there's a couple of docks where people take their lives in their hand coming down to get access to their dock. Very difficult to fish. Very difficult on the boat. The boat got banged up pretty good. But casting is it's difficult. Okay, to put a bait where you want to put it, and put a bait where most people will not fish it. Okay, and a good part of it too. I'm literally fishing over a dock, up against it, pitching over the walkway into those areas, and just hoping, if I get a bite, I can just swing the fish up and over the dock and into the boat. That's it. No more bites. No bites on the best stretch. Conditions the first day of the tournament, I thought were going to play right in my hands. I mean, you're talking about, we had 3 days of inclement weather, cloudy, rainy, with thunderstorms, tornado warnings, all that. Tuesday, kind of a transition-y day. Wednesday, it's a cold front if I ever saw a cold front. It was in the upper 30s. frosty, blue sky, not a cloud in the sky, big sun, choppy breeze, cold fronty day. Fish were going to bury up, and I've been doing this 30 years, if you guys know. It should have played into my hands. Those fish should have been buried up in that wood, and possibly were, and just not biting. I don't know, but I fished it so thoroughly. I mean, I probably lost a dozen jigs, really. I mean, it's that bad. I mean, no matter how you manipulated the weed guard and what you did, it just feather it and just finesse it in there. Rob was freaking out. It was very difficult fishing. I warned him ahead of time, and it was very difficult fishing on to make a presentation, to get it where you wanted to do it, then fish it. And if you didn't get bit most of the time, it was hung up. It was difficult because you had the wood, the brush, the cables, the metal, and the rock, the chunky rock, all mixed up together. Okay. So bumming, scrambled around, caught one other fish. Caught everything that bit, everything, whether it was this big or, 2 3/4, whatever. Put everything in the boat that bit. 4 fish for 8 pounds even. Okay, so bumming, yeah. So your perspective, changes. You're not the goal, but you're just, you a little bit of reality kind of sets in. I knew I was going to need 12 to 14 pounds to stay in it. I figured 15 a day was going to get it done. In the past, it's 50 pounds a day. Okay, so you're talking 16 and a half, 17 pounds, whatever that comes out to. 50 pounds for 15 fish, okay? So I knew I had it, my work cut out for me, but I knew I could do it. I figured if I caught, 18 pounds, I could make the cut. So your goals change a little bit. So it goes from going in, my goal was top 3. Fourth was the same as last. Probably worse than fourth is worse than last because you're out of the classic. But you're in a check. They paid to 40th place. So at that moment, I wanted to catch enough weight to make the cut. Okay, so the top 20 fish the third day. Okay, so after the first day, I'm thinking, okay, I need to make the cut to have a shot. Okay, then anything could happen. So I got to put a big bag in to get there. Second day, obviously on boat 239, they flip flop, and I fished with this kid Tanner, okay, from like Illinois or something like that, and we had a great day. I caught 7 keeper fish. I had 11 pounds. 6 or 8 ounces, something like that. Not quite good enough. He had a good fish. I had to make a choice one time coming down between the docks. It's like I seen this, awesome potential fish holding piece of cover, or nothing, literally nothing up against the bank behind this dock. Not even behind the dock, up against the bank that we couldn't reach from the other side. I had to make a decision because he's being fairly aggressive, because he's trying to do what he's trying to do, and he did cash a check. I could either throw to nothing behind the dock where I couldn't reach before from the other side, or I could throw in this juicy looking piece of cover. So I chose the juicy looking piece of cover, knowing I'm going to fish that, he's going to fish that. I throw in there, I don't get a bite. I ended up getting a bite just a little bit from that, but he throws over there, and what looked like was a 5, it turned out to be like a 4 1/4 or something like that, 4 something like that. What are you going to do, right? So that fish alone, if I had thrown there and caught it, got it in the boat, would not have made a difference. If I'd have caught one more 2-pound class fish the first day and that fish, that would have put me in the cut, not in the classic cut, not in the top 3, but in the cut to fish day 3, top 20. So that's somewhat, kind of makes it a little bit palatable. So that's that. Ended up finishing 48th out of 243. For whatever it's at worth. Check was 40th place, so I didn't get a check. So there you go. Long ride home, but it was a good ride. Lisa and I decided to leave Friday morning. about 8:30, something like that, and we did a little bit longer day than we did the first day coming out, so the second day would be a little shorter. So it was great, weather was great. Loved the way we went Route 80 across Pennsylvania. Ended up staying at a hotel both nights. Slept from like 9 to 5 o'clock, something like that. Truck did good, truck did great. Pulling the boat, doesn't even know it's back there. So all in all, a good trip. This is the first time I've had to really, kind of like let it all out and talk about how it went. So I know it's a long video, but hey, it is what it is. I appreciate everybody that stayed watching it this far. So right off the bat, I mean, you're starting. I'm already planning for next year. Am I going to fish the Opens? Am I going to fish the 4 Bassmaster Opens? Am I going to do the Mass Bass Nation Pro-Am trail, which it's shaping up to be a really good trail, leading into the state championship? 5 tournaments with a drop from the Pro-Am. The Pro-Am guys get double points at the state championship to determine who the AOY is after all that. So it's a combination of the Pro-Am and the 2-day state championship to determine who gets the automatic invite to the Nationals for 2026. Okay, right now Aaron Dorsey and Sammy Sanko are going to the Nationals for 2025, which they kind of a couple of rumors out to where they're possibly going. We don't know. So right now I'm just on the lookout to see where the qualifier is. Like I said, I'm looking at the 4 Opens. And I can't do the 4 Opens, and I could do the Opens here. I mean the Pro-Ams here, but I don't know about the state championship. I don't know about the regional qualifier, wherever that's going to be. I don't know. I can't do all of that in the Open. So Lisa and I are talking about it, weighing our options. What's the best shot to get the goal, which is to qualify for the Bassmasters Classic, win one of the 4 Opens, go to the Nationals for 2025. I'll have to finish in the top 20 at the qualifier to do that. So that's what's going on. That's a quick recap of the event. I appreciate everybody that followed along. I'm going to try to gather up all this content and get it out there best I can. So that's a wrap. Pretty much that's it for this season. And again, I can't thank everybody enough for the support. And keep your eye out for all the stuff that I'm going to be putting up there. All right, that's long enough for me. Everyone have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.